Whoa. In the last 24 hours, I started Severance, finished the first season, and watched season 2 of the show. And legitimately, all I could say is, wow, I do not know what I was missing. I absolutely loved season 1 and definitely have some thoughts about season 2, episode 1, which we're definitely going to get into in this video. But I will say, since I caught up in this short of a span of time, I'm going to break this video into kind of two sections. First, I'll give a recap and review of season 1 quickly, since I never really got to talk about it on this channel. And then I'm going to finish with my season 2 episode 1 review. Get it? Got it? Good. Okay, let's jump in. So I don't know about you guys, but I have been getting fed ads all over the place for Severance. It's been all over. I think Apple realistically has done an incredible job, like they always do with their marketing campaigns, of marketing this show. And they really shoved it down my throat, and I'm glad they did.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Because it was worth it. It truly was. I did not know what I was getting into. I knew it was these people in an office, and they set their work lives different from their personal lives. But I feel like that just barely scratches the surface of what this show is. And because I watched it so quickly, there's so much going on in my head that I don't even know where to begin. Realistically, there was just there was so much going on in this show, and it's just done so well. I think it's nailed everything from its artistic approach to its acting to its cinematography, just everything. The music. The only thing that I don't like about the show is the intro. I thought it was really cheesy, and I'm glad so far, at least in season 2, episode 1 of the show, they kind of fixed that, because the whole cartoon thing was just corny, and I skipped it every time, and that's it. That's really my biggest problem with the show, but I loved everything about it. I loved the core cast we got from Mark, Helly, Dylan, Irving, those people, and then, of course, Milchick, and then Cobel, whatever her name is, Miss Cobel, all those people. They really just were a very solid cast of really solid actors, and I thought it was just executed very well, because it made me, unlike many shows out there, ask a lot of questions about everything, just trying to understand this whole world and how there is like this separation and Lumon in general and all of that. It's just crazy. And again, like I said, I'm going to do a quick little recap in this part, and then I'm going to go to the actual review of episode 1 of season 2. I don't know if I have all the time in the world to collect my thoughts. All in, the first season obviously was all about this core group, Mark, Helly, Irving, Dylan, as I mentioned, and them slowly coming to the realization that they don't want to work at this place anymore, so they start an uplifting within Lumon. But it goes so much freaking deeper than that. It's not just that. That's like the very, 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 very tip of the iceberg, but it gets so detailed in there, which is insane. You have characters like Petey, who were people who were in the, obviously best friends with Mark and in that world, and then they escape and they get reintroduced, or whatever you call it, I forget the name of it, back into society, but that goes wrong. Apparently Lumon is super evil, which obviously you could tell throughout the season and stuff like that, and it just makes you ask all these questions. What are they doing? What are they building in there? It's just absolutely insane. As you could tell, I don't have much of a thought other than just being mind blown. Like I mentioned, the core story is about them coming to the terms of what, this whole thing is. And just where it goes is awesome. It really is. It's one of those shows where, you have an idea with your friends or something like that about a cool story that you'd like to tell, and it just, everything works for you guys. You're all excited about it, blah, blah, blah. That's like this in the real form of a TV show. Just everything worked. Really. The only other thing besides the intro that I didn't love isn't really a fault of the show. It's Christopher Walken, because Christopher Walken in a TV show is Christopher Walken in everything. He's not Bert, like he's meant to play Bert or Mr. Goodman or whatever you call him. That's what he's meant to play. But no, it's Christopher Walken. That's it. That's my only other complaint with the substance of the show. I just love all of the themes that it explores. How you have characters like Mark, who are escaping the death of his wife, who crazy turn of events, actually turns out to be basically another worker at Lumon, even though she's dead, which is another layer of this whole thing that's crazy. But then you have Helly, a character who was obviously mortified to be there the whole time, but she's trapped by her other half, like her Audi person. I guess that's what you call them instead of the innies, the Audis, who is literally the son or the daughter of one of the creators of Lumon. Like, what? And then you have Dylan, obviously has a family and stuff like that, and he learns that, and then once he does, he just wants to get out of there. Irving coming to terms with his sexuality through Christopher Walken, not Bert, Christopher Walken, was interesting, and his turn from being this, like, really just uptight person into wanting to know more and get out there, it was just so good, and it worked so well, and where it went at the end, especially with Cobel being around the whole time, like living next to Mark the whole time, being up his ass, was just phenomenal. It really was. There's no other way to put it. It was just so good. And I know I've given it a lot of praise and probably been repetitious and all of that stuff, but the only reason I bring up a lot of this is because I think a lot of this season built up to that crazy ending that we got of the uprising of Mark, Helly, and Irving, and how all of their stories, when they went into society and they like their innie turned on from Dylan doing the thing, that really set up what was season 2. And I couldn't even imagine what it is like to have waited as long as most people did who watched it from the beginning, because it's been like 3 years. For me, it was like an hour. You know what I mean? So I can't imagine what that wait must have been like. So speaking from my behalf, I don't know what the general consensus is if people loved it or hated it, but now we're going to transition into talking about season 2, episode 1. I loved how it reintroduced the story, how we just kind of, in a way, jumped right back in, but we also didn't exactly jump right back in, because when you're an innie, time just feels like it's all on the same plane, I guess. So when you leave work for the day and you start the next day, it feels like no time has passed. It's just like when we sleep, you don't really think you've slept 8 hours or whatever like that. Same sort of thing happened. But we pick up right there after the events that unfolded in the finale where, you know, we saw Mark, Helly, Dylan, all of those characters, you know, go back into society. Not Dylan, I mean Irving and stuff like that. But it picks up right there. And then when Mark goes back in, he's not with his other workers who we've just learned crazy shit about, like Helly, who is literally the daughter of the founders of this thing, I think, right? Let me know in the comments. I don't know. Again, just started watching the show yesterday. Regardless, I thought that was absolutely insane. And then eventually, of course, we do see that Milchick took over because Cobel was fired and stuff like that. But Mark has this entirely new crew that he's working for. So he sets up like a little coup to get rid of them or whatever, but he ends up getting fired. Apparently 5 months go by, and then the original cast is back together. Really interesting way to do everything. But then when they all come back together, what I found even more interesting, I should say, and I'm really interested to see where this goes. I said interest way too many times there. Jesus Christ. Anyway, Helly lied. Helly said she didn't know, or she was just a no one. She was single, just in an apartment, bored, whatever. Bro, like, no, that's not true at all. And it's crazy. I feel like now they're going to be maybe setting up Helly as this potential big bad, at least in some way, shape, or form. And that is insane to think. It's also really interesting to see what the board has done and how essentially Milchick seemingly is lying to them. At least it feels like he's lying to the crew there in general, basically saying that that group of workers in the micro data or whatever you call it department started an uprising and made all these beautiful changes for the better. Like, and apparently 5 months has gone by and they're celebrities in the real world. I think there's a reason that we haven't seen any of the Audis in the real world yet this season so far, because I don't think that's true. I think obviously Milchick knows that and is trying to hide it by saying the board is with him and they have these choices. Like apparently Dylan, they're building this blueprint for a room that can, you know, he could see his family, his Audi family with and stuff like that. Like, I don't believe Milchick. I wonder if they're going to set up Milchick as this big bad, but it's still, he already kind of is, but it still leaves a lot of questions, I should say, on the table. Like, where is Cobel? what is going to happen with Helly. All of these things are things that, again, I feel like I've barely just scratched the surface. Like we're still at the tip of the iceberg, but it goes down miles. There's so much here to explore, whether it's the themes of the show, whether it's just in general what Lumon's doing, whether it's each of their individual backstories, which, by the way, I hope we do get a little bit more of. That was an original complaint while I was midway through season one, but obviously when season one ended, I totally understood why they didn't give characters like Helly's backstory or things like that, but I do hope this season we get a little more exploration into Helly, Irving, and Dylan as outies, because we got a lot of a focus on Mark, which I think is righteous. I mean, he's our main character, but I'm interested to see what they do with the rest of the characters and what they're going to do with Casey, Miss Casey and things like that. It's just that this show, I feel like, is just doing everything right, or at least it did. And even season 2, episode 1 started out in a really good place. And I'm very excited to see where this goes. If this was very surface level for you guys, I'm sorry. I wanted to get this out and just brain dump my feelings about the show, talk about season 1, talk about season 2, episode 1 a little bit. What I can say for certain is you will be getting reviews of each episode week by week, and hopefully by next week when episode 2 airs, I'll have collected my thoughts a little bit better than this just like explosion. So yeah, I hope you bared with me through that. If you did and you watched Severance and you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. It is literally free. It's that white little button right under the video. It would mean the world to me. We could share it with more people, and I'll be covering the show extensively now because it is a welcomed part of the Jerry's Takes channel, which is something I've never said before. I don't think I've ever said my name in a video before. Maybe I have. I don't know, but that's weird. Anyway, with all that out of the way, let me know your thoughts about Severance Season 2, Episode 1, and until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Peace out.